Hello everyone, welcome back to Witch in the Woods here on the Yogscast Complete Pack server. So, we are in the well, and this time we are of course focusing on decoration. So last time I put together a palette, which I have since expanded. So, a bunch of people suggested that I be using that I be using some stained clay. Unfortunately, it can't actually be chiseled. There are no chisel textures on the server for it. But that combined with the light grey dye actually does a fairly decent transition. It's not absolutely perfect, but if we use it sparingly, we should be able to cope. And I believe I may have left the Never Cobble somewhere else. Let me just grab that. I did manage to finally sort out how the Never Cobble can be, like, worked into the system. So there we go. So that is now our full... just fly a bit so you can see it better. That is our full palette from least degraded to most. So you can see we've got the normal sky block, so instead of the inverted, and then we go to the end stone, and then finally down to stone. So that's a nice transition there. I'm thinking of having skyblock flicker every now and then as well. So if I just head down a couple levels, we can see a test case. So there we go. So that is sort of an example of what I want that kind of bridge to look like. I think more skyblock and less inverted skyblock for this level, but that kind of has that nice little sort of seam of things are getting a little bit weird. So I like that, it looks good. And then the flooring goes from the Nether brick and the Nether block that we have out here to Nether cobblestone, to light grey stained clay, to stone and cobblestone, which is the bottom level. So that looks pretty good as well. It's a decent transition. It's still a little bit abrupt, but I think it works pretty well. And if I go with the actual white stained clay, then it's way too bright next to the stone. But this transition I like. Also, point of note, end stone and stone are actually inversions of each other. In color, in like texture-wise, which is interesting. So today I'm going to be mostly working on that, which gives me a fair bit of time to be discussing exactly what we put on for our homework this time, which was the original Ju-on, made, I want to say 2002, and I suppose I'm gonna try and use that as like a jumping off point, because Asian horror has some very distinct differences to Western horror. So, for example, if we look at The Ring, which you're probably going to want to take notes on. In the case of The Ring, we had a barn house, we had the tape, which was largely incomprehensible anyways. We had Samara, we had, like, oh, she was evil from the day she was born, and yada yada yada. So, Samara of the American remake of The Ring, not honestly that interesting a character. Whereas Samara of the original Ring, way more interesting. Like, she's not evil, but she has this, like, this darkness within her, and her video actually makes sense when you understand her story. And the way that she kills is a lot more vivid and terrifying and all sorts. It's like, maybe I'm just dull. I'm just, like, jaded to Western horror movies, but Eastern does such a good job at it, I think. I love it. It's like, let's go with our example that we had this week, then. So we had Ju-on, and Ju-on is organized into a series of fairly short vignettes, describing generally distinct characters that are moving around this this old house that has a dark history, and we see Toshio, we see Kayako, we see Kana, who is probably the most gory section of the whole movie. And we just continue on our way, and off we go, and we figure out these, like, different details. We find out, eventually, what actually happened inside of the house by virtue of Kobayashi-sensei's visit. And it's just, it is so gloriously done. But yeah, we don't actually have one coherent string throughout the whole movie. It's closer to VHS, honestly. With significantly more, actually, attention to it, but, you know. Okay, let's get some nether brick. I have taught the machine how to make basically everything that we're going to be needing here. So, we shouldn't have any trouble with supply. And I've got a lot of nether essence, this shouldn't be an issue at all. So let's just get in our basic flooring, and then we'll start to mess it up with some nether cobblestone. So yeah, it doesn't really have a coherent storyline. It just centers entirely around this one building, this one house, where this kid used to live, where there is now these problems, where something terrible happened and the bodies went missing and all that, but we don't really know anything about it until, like, we actually start to investigate, and it starts small. It starts ramping up. So Kobayashi is probably the most coherent thing, because we see him twice in the course of the vignettes. So that just starts with Toshio giving that weird meowing. Now, we don't know why, in the course of the original Ju-on, why Toshio meows. If you look up more of the detail of the sequels and whatnot, you find out that his soul is fused with that of a deceased cat, who probably died of neglect as well. Of course, Toshio, by the time Kobayashi-san gets there, has been dead for a long time anyways. As has Kayako and whatnot. Yep, there. I kinda wanna move this jukebox as well. There we go. And, yeah, I guess I'll show this off. So down here I have the little wire, the fairly, like, relaxed wiring. This is just two randomizers going into each other, so that just more or less alters the timing. And that just, ensures that basically it's a random assortment of the different triggers that come out, so it's got 3 different outputs. And I have taught everything how to make this so we can make any number of those that we need. Lovely. Whoop, I mean, we'll keep... There we go. So yeah, then we get to the more malevolent presence. Like, you can describe Toshio as being more of a mischievous spirit. I mean, he's just a little kid, he's just playing around most of the time. He's extremely reverent of his mother and all sorts. And we don't ever really see his father until, like, the last section with Kobayashi, where things start to come into sharp focus. Okay, I need nether block. Whoop. Not sure what happened there, but I'll take it. So yeah, Tayako's Psyche, I think was his name. I don't quite exactly remember precisely, but I think his name was Kayako Psyche. Massive dick, we can say that much quite easily. But we gradually sort of unravel this picture of what was happening in that household. We gradually work out all of the things that were wrong, that were messed up, and all sorts. Ooh, wait, I don't want this one here, do I? I want it further out. Yeah, just around here. So, we find out that Toshio's father was very much a drunk, was jealous of these old, like, school books that, his wife Kayako, kept of her school days, where she describes having a big crush on, Kobayashi, I think it was. My memory has just suddenly blanked on his name, jeez. Good. Oop, no, that's the cobblestone. It's really hard to tell at this resolution the difference, but there is a difference there. And I'm gonna need some light-infused nether brick, which I also taught. Just to light the place up. Because it is getting kind of dark around here now that I've taken out the torches. So what you eventually figure out is that one night, Taiko gets very, very drunk, and murders Kayako and murders Toshio. And presumably also their cat, that's a possibility. Quietly dismembers and disposes of their bodies, and goes about his business, pretty much drinking himself to death later on. There isn't really much to be said of justice in it. There isn't really much to be said of there being any, like, discovery of the whole story. It's just, this happened, and we can't figure it out anymore because basically everybody involved is gone. Everybody is dead. The series is fairly light in terms of gore. Like, the Asian cinema can do magnificent things with gore, but Ringu and Ju-on don't tend to have much in the way of it. Did I not order more of that? Okay, let's order a stack then. Okay, let's get the light in here, so you can kind of see there's a slight lighting difference between the Magical Corrupts one and the regular stuff, so I can kind of work out from that where to put my light-infused nether brick, which will mean that we can have torchless lighting down here. Which is nice, because it means less particles for me to be concerned about. And it also means that, like, in theory, with my night vision, I could just have this place pitch black, but then we would get the issue of having mobs spawning down here, and well, that would be fantastic. Also, I prefer lighter environments, personally. I mean, with the lights on here, the only place you'll see me in the darkness usually is, most likely to be when I'm playing Alien Isolation. Which people seem to be enjoying, by the way, which is nice. Okay, I need another block. 46, 48, good. Okay, so Toshio is pretty much a victim of circumstance. Like, he doesn't particularly do anything to like, want to die. He doesn't have hardly any understanding of what's going on, except that his father is mean and, like, swaying side to side and everything. And then we get to Kayako, who had this childhood crush, who we presume that she, like, reached out to, quite possibly to try and seek help. But unfortunately, she does not receive it soon enough. Now, the basis of the entire story inside of Ju-on is that of the vengeance-seeking spirits. Spirits tend often to be imperfect versions of the people whom they have arisen from. They're usually spirits of the dead, but they can be spirits of people who were never born at all. That's possible, that has happened. The Dibuk, for example, of the unborn. But usually spirits have a significant hang-up about how they died, whom killed them, if they were murdered and all sorts, and stuff like that. But you can find them to be like fairly complex spirits in Dungeons and Dragons, for example. And yes, I'm a massive nerd for referencing that. Ghosts can be every bit as intelligent as the people that they spawned from. So you can find people, for example, who are trying to, like, do good in the world and such, who don't have a particular hang-up about how they died. Although that's not exactly the most common thing. Okay, looks like we're getting a little bit of lag right now. Little bit. 3, 2, 1. No? Are we out of something? Currently crafting nether brick. You have plenty of nether brick. Okay, the system is being strange now. Okay, well that's odd. But yeah, moving swiftly on. As though to pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Oh wow, yeah, there is some lag there. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so we have nether brick. What's going on? That is strange. What? We definitely have glowstone essence. Yeah, we have oodles of that. That's bizarre. Okay, fine. Light. Inf. Grab that recipe. Shove it in there, grab it. Good. Fine, we'll take that route. I don't know why it's decided it wants to bug out now. Okay, I think there's one more spot that I need to put these in around the outside. I'm just not sure where exactly it is. Oh, that's why, because I put it there. That's fine. I can work that out. Right. So, in the case of Kayako, the ghost that we are presented with is a spirit of anger and vengeance. The main, like, crux of the Ju-on story is when a spirit dies in a state of extreme emotion, they sort of enact their emotions upon those who come afterwards. There aren't really many similar spirits in Western mythology, although ghosts are fairly common to pretty much all mythologies. So the first one that comes to mind, of recent years at least, is that of the woman in black. Okay, cobblestone. We need to start mixing this in now. And let's craft ourselves up a whole bunch more of that. Okay, so we should be able to hear that back here. Yep, there it goes. That is our rock crusher at work. Okay, so we just need to kind of go around and pepper some of these non-magical crops, nether bricks, away, and replace them with bits of nether cobble, to sort of give the impression that this place is wearing down a bit, but this part is one of the more, like, well-maintained areas. So, let's see, nether cobble, nether cobble, nether cobble, nether cobble. I like that this sort of, like, bridges the divide between the block and the brick as well, so it works quite nicely. And we're not seeing any, like, major disturbance of how the overall color scheme works right now, which is good. Let's see, that's what I'm looking for. And yeah, the rock crusher was just being a bit bulky for some reason. Yeah, every now and then I need to wake it up and remind it, hey, you're totally able to, like, do this. You should totally have power right now. Why you not have power? Okay, let's just tear out some of the nether block as well. Just to further muddy this. So this would be a place that was pristine but has broken down a bit, so it's just sort of been left to mildly decay. And then we can start working on the walls. I probably won't get this whole thing finished in one episode. I mean, I've barely gotten this flooring finished so far. But yeah, that's just a start. So the floor looks less than pristine. But still getting there, still getting there. And we probably want to stick one or two of the light grey stained clay in here as well. Probably the best place to put that is like around about here and such, so we can just sort of like highlight certain vulnerabilities and weak points inside of the structure next to where there are like these big blocks and stuff, these big bright coloured blocks. Whoop. Wow, server, why you lag? Why you so lag? Okay, there we go. So it's not like a particularly regular thing, but it occurs a little bit. Let's add one more just to kind of break up the look of there's one to every side kind of thing. So yeah, that's still a little bit dramatic because it's mostly next to the original colours rather than the nether cobblestone and the stone and such, but it looks good. Looks better. And then down here we expect to have more of the light grey than the actual like nether brick and whatnot, but we've been mixing in other things. Yep. Okay. So, as I say, I may simply be jaded with how Western versus Asian horror movies tend to be to me. But if we look at Ju-on, Ju-on is magnificent in how it is arranged. Like, it's not arranged in a particular fashion that might scream like a classic kind of horror movie today. It's got the vignettes, it's got these different characters, the acting is actually about par for like most Asian movies in my experience. And what is You know how to make this. Why are you not making this? It is being really weird. Okay. Huh, guess I'll have to finish this next time when the lag sorts itself out. Jeez. But yeah, if we go from up here to down here, we can see that it's kind of breaking apart a bit. Still largely intact, but that'll stop here. And I feel like this kind of thing needs to be more the look for the level above, and then we need to have like the end stone to stone kind of transition at this level, and then we're more or less fully stone down here. But I can work on that. Oop, oop, oop. So next time, I'm going to work on the decoration, like, between now and next episode. Next time, we are going to look at necromancy, which is things like the brew of raising and the necromantic stone and all sorts. We might even take a quick visit to the dream world, but we'll see how things go. So, that is it for now. The next homework that you have, continuing in the style of Asian horror, and it's our little investigation of it, is the movie Ringu, for which there is also an American adaptation, which is tremendously, like, weak by comparison. So take a look at Ringu. You can compare it to Ring, like The Ring, if you happen to have time. Ringu has a fairly diverse story. If you have time, I doubt you will, because it's a fairly thick book, you can go and read the original novel by Toshio Suzuki, I want to say. I know that name rings a bell somehow in terms of horror literature in Japan, but I can't quite place it. It'll be on the screen, no doubt, calling me a doofus if I got it wrong. But otherwise, one thing I need to note is I've finally gotten this thing over 8,000, and it was not easy. So let's see, we've got melon in the walls, we've got grass with little blocks above it so it stays there, we've got pumpkins, there are mushrooms all over this, I've got levels of oak wood, birch wood, spruce wood, alder, hawthorn. Yeah, I've got all sorts in here, and more or less everything has grown to completion, I believe. Let me just warp over here. The glint weed still has places to go. I don't know why this seems to have stopped here, but I don't really have too much of a need of it. So that could be a bit higher than it is, but that's still pretty good. 8,000 is more or less the maximum we need. That's what we need to get a familiar, so we might do that as well next time. But anyways, that is it for now. I hope you've enjoyed this little decoration episode while I just talk at length about Ju-on and Asian horror and all sorts. And with that, I shall catch you all next time.